What if you were already whole? What if you really weren't broken? We're never broken, and brokenness itself is just an illusion. I know that sounds crazy, but it is revealing itself to be the truth more and more with each passing day. Welcome to my channel where creativity and wellness intersect. I'm Brian Hogan, life coach, filmmaker, and clinical therapist, coming at you with another weekly Wellness Wednesday video. Let's talk about what it means to be whole and why it changes everything. There is more agreement than disagreement between scientific, spiritual, psychological, and contemplative traditions, all converging on one core truth, that within each person lies a radiant, unbreakable wholeness, often obscured by conditioning, trauma, or misperception. This truth is not just poetic. It's echoed across millennia, cultures, and disciplines. Science is catching up to what mystics have always known. You are already whole. The only journey is to realize it. You don't need to become something more to realize your divinity. You simply need to return to what you already are, whole. Wholeness is not something to become. It's something to remember. In Buddhism, there's this concept of the Buddha nature or the state of nirvana, which is the innate awakened state. In internal family systems therapy, the concept of the self is this inherently calm, compassionate, curious, clear, confident, undamaged, undamageable core of peace. In Hinduism and yoga traditions, they have the Atman, which is the divine soul, the aspect of ourselves that is one with all of creation. In Christian mysticism, they describe the kingdom of God, and Jesus said it was inside of us. In Luke 17:21, the kingdom of heaven is within you. In polyvagal theory, we now know that a regulated nervous system reveals a grounded, open, social, friendly, and benevolent human being by default. By default, like the way babies are when their needs are met and they're being cared for, they're just naturally joyful and happy unless they have a diaper rash. We have a great societal diaper rash right now, and it is time to put on the cream. And the cream is the realization of our innate wholeness. In quantum physics, it's known now that the observer participates fully in shaping reality, that consciousness is not separate from the thing that consciousness is observing. The problem really just comes in when we misperceive. We have a problem of perception that is born of the way we are raised. We are an animal that is helpless for the longest amount of time of most any species. Like, even colts, they like plop out of their mom and then boom, they're up on their feet and they're walking around and doing their own thing, feeding themselves, and they come out like instantly potty trained. Human babies, on the other hand, pop out of their mom and it's like you're 10 before you can do much for yourself, So it's like a long time. We literally are living in our own crap and tinkle for like 2 to 4 years with no say over when we get wiped or fed. I know it's gross, but it's true. It's the unvarnished, common to us all, shared, smelly truth. And so during that time, we go through a process of programming. It's an inadvertent process. It's innocent and it's born of love even. It's an absolutely necessary process for human development. But it creates this illusion, this delusion, made of language, made of thoughts, made of beliefs, made of societal expectations. First, it starts with etiquette like potty training and words like mom and dad. These are good things, but they limit our perception and they create the illusion of our social life, which stems from this created self that we go through our whole lives with. And most of us never even realize the created self exists, let alone that it's been running the show the entire time, instead of our true self, our creative self. The creative self is the name that I give to our real self, like our inner wisdom, our true nature, our natural state of being from birth until we begin the process of manufacturing a created self. And before you protest that you are not one of the creative types, just remember that language is a creative process, and so is thinking. Both happen in your imagination. So yes, you are creative. We all are. By default. That creativity is what goes to work early in that first decade when you're working up a prototype for a created self. Before that happens, the creative self is naturally curious, charismatic, loving, joyful, content, and totally at peace. definitionless and totally good with it, illusion-free, unless they get that pesky diaper rash. The created self is what I call the part of our psyche that evolves as a result of the way we humans are required to develop. Because we're helpless and hapless for approximately a decade, longer for some of us, we trust those around us for better or worse. And through their influence, we pick up our beliefs, our habits, our emotional set point, our self-image, our worldview, and these are the ingredients that make up the created self. We all have a creative self. That is the truth of our wholeness. And we all have a created self. That is the illusion of our identity, programming, and opinions. That obscures the truth. Think of it like a sculpture. The creative self is the original clay with all of its infinite potential, formless, essential, the stuff from which all gets made. The created self is what gets molded by the tools around us, tools like our parents, our setbacks, our friendships, and our tragedies and victories. So the creative self is your essence, what is true, what is real. The created self is your coping skills, your mental stories, your social masks, what is false, what is unreal. This created self, the aspect of us with the social life that we call me and I, is also validated by all these same ancient wisdom and mystical traditions. In Buddhism, it's called avidya, or ignorance, and they call it the root of suffering. In Christianity, Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do," hearkening to this idea of the big illusion that we're all stuck in. In internal family systems therapy, the parts are conceived of as there to protect us from pain, but they also end up accidentally distorting our sense of our true nature, creating more suffering. Epigenetics is a new field that's emerging, and it really explains how environment and trauma shape gene expression and behavior, but it's modifiable, so we are innately changeable and able to heal. Cognitive science says perception is filtered through prior beliefs and emotional memory. The way we gain freedom is through awareness, through integration, through love, through a deep understanding of our total sense of wholeness. Every other part of our nature already just realizes its wholeness. Every other part of nature, like it's inherent, it's implied in nature. Like things are just supplied. Everything is supplied for every other species. There isn't one other creature on the planet that goes around worrying where its next meal is going to come from. It just goes and it finds it in the abundant landscape in which it finds itself. That would be true for us too, if it weren't for this illusion, this ego, this avidya thing. So we really do want to come back to an understanding and an awareness of our wholeness. Perception is so powerful that it literally controls our whole lives and creates our entire sense of reality and ourself. For example, when two people remember the same argument totally differently, it's usually not that one of them is lying, but that they both truly see it differently. Because they must. They can only see the world through their own eyes and perceptions and perspective. But we can transcend the limits of perception by a practice of realization. In Buddhism, they actually say, since we are all Buddha, we are already complete. The Yoga Sutras say contentment derives from being whole and accepting all that you are. Christianity says, in Him you have been made whole and complete. The Upanishads, that's ancient Hindu wisdom, they say you are whole and complete already, and spiritual practice can only reveal the completeness that is already there. The Tao Te Ching says it kind of differently, and they say, to become whole, let yourself be partial. So that's the paradox, explaining here that it's just a piece of you that needs to find the truth, because when you find it, you are whole, and the partial will then understand. In science, we now even have neuroplasticity in the brain. So this is neuroscience saying the brain can be reorganized in and of itself, which indicates our inherent potential for wholeness and healing. Napoleon Hill says, you are not free until you learn to do your own thinking. And Robert Greene says, the truth is that creative activity involves the entire self. Wholeness is not something to become. It is something to remember. So we are meant to understand our wholeness across all of these diverse sources. A unifying message emerges. Wholeness is not something to be achieved. It is a state to be recognized, whether through spiritual practice, psychological exploration, or scientific understanding. The journey is about uncovering the completeness that already exists within you. Carl Rogers, he's the father of modern psychotherapy as we know it, and he said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, hint, in my wholeness, then I can change." So there again, the paradox reveals the truth. We're more like diamonds buried in the mud than shattered glass. We're just covered. We are not broken. The work is uncovering, not fixing. The thing is, the beautiful part of this is when you really embrace your wholeness, when you embrace what it means to be whole and to know it, to fully know it, you can begin to operate from that place. It helps you heal your broken heart. It helps you heal your past trauma. It helps you heal your old stories. And then as you do that, you shift. You're an individual light shifting. And we are living through a massive transformation of human consciousness now. But it's not a given. The massive transformation of human consciousness is made up of individual consciousness, each one shifting. And so when you shift from fear to presence, from scarcity to sufficiency, from brokenness to wholeness, you are part of that massive collective shift. We're seeing more people healing trauma, questioning old systems, turning inward. This is the shift. Quantum entanglement says that everything is connected. Epigenetics says that environment shapes gene expression. Polyvagal theory says a regulated nervous system leads to compassion and connection. Spiritual voices echo this shift. Even voices outside mainstream philosophy, including channeled messages like those from Bashar and Abraham Hicks, they echo this same idea. Bashar once said, "Circumstances don't matter, only state of being matters." Abraham Hicks says, "You are a vibrational being. The path to everything you want is through alignment." You embracing your wholeness is not just personal, it's collective. Every moment you choose to rest in the truth of your wholeness, you contribute to a more compassionate, more integrated world. That's the truth. So now, just for today, just for 1 minute even, rest in the truth that you are a whole being. Even if you can't think of it as the truth, just contemplate the idea for 1 minute. Contemplate this mantra: I am whole. I have nothing I need to fix to be worthy of love. I am love. My old yoga teacher used to say, you can do anything well for 1 minute. Granted, that was after we'd already been holding downward facing dog for like 8 minutes, but that is not the point. She was right. We can do anything well for 1 minute. So just well and truly right now, hold this idea. Let it hold you just for a minute and see how it feels. Because as Carl Rogers described, when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. That's the cosmic joke, isn't it? We spend years trying to change, only to find that the moment we stop fighting ourselves, everything begins to shift. Realizing your wholeness will not happen with a fight, or a battle, or a shout. It will happen because of relationship, a deeper one with ourselves, a clearer and safer one with all of our parts, and a boundaried one with toxic people. Wholeness is not something to become. It is something to remember. I remember this one time, I was walking home from the grocery store in West Hollywood with everything I needed to make caprese salad, and when I was almost to my door, I just knew. I knew. Everything was fine. More than fine. Everything was perfect. Everything was thriving. This was not cognitive. It was a flash of awareness that was more real to me than my everyday, completely apparent reality. And I just started laughing. Uncontrollably laughing at first because I was flooded with this joy, like this joy of ease and this joy of having been hoodwinked because all of my present drama felt meaningless and innocent, like I was now inside of the surprise party and everything before that was just fake drama to lead me to this moment. Within minutes it faded, but it wasn't an imagined vision that faded. It was my peek through the veil to what is on the other side of the illusion. In that moment, it all made sense. When the Toltec said we are inherently perfect, that made sense to me. Jesus saying, I and the Father are one, made total sense to me because in that moment, I was also one with them and I was one with everything and everyone else. And I knew it. It was not a concept. It was. Every paradox was suddenly conflict-free, included, and apparently resolved. And even after it faded, I had a taste of something, and I have never forgotten it. I know it in my bones now, no matter what else is happening, and no matter how things appear, that all is well, truly, cosmically, eternally. Brokenness doesn't even exist. But until we realize that, we're going to keep breaking things. Wholeness does not have to be a struggle toward. It is your birthright. You relax into it, like submerging yourself in a warm bath. You do not climb up to reach it. That metaphorical warm bath is exactly what we need for our collective diaper rash that often feels like whiplash. Radical acceptance is how things are. Radical acceptance of how things are is the butt cream. Detachment from the outcome of our efforts is the fresh diaper. And self-kindness, ever radiating outward to the self, through the self to others, is the caretaking love of the benevolent force that changes us, pats us gently on the bum, and supports our growth at every turn. We are that benevolent force. We are whole. So here's the thing. You do not have to believe this all at once. Just allow for the possibility that you are already whole and let life unfold from there, okay? Don't trust it, but experiment with it. Because as any good spiritual guide will tell you, your direct experience will be your best teacher. So practice with resting in this truth of your wholeness. Contemplate the inherent wholeness of everything around you in nature. And remember what mystics have been whispering for millennia. There is no such thing as brokenness. It is an illusion. The way through it is by unconditional love. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means completion, fruition. It means nothing essential is missing, and no potential is held back. Whether it hits you in a flash of laughter outside your apartment while holding baguettes and fresh basil, or in a quiet moment after hearing these words, remember, wholeness doesn't need to be sought. It only needs to be remembered. So what if, just what if, you really are already whole? What if we all are? Imagine what kind of world we might create when our wholeness is wholly remembered. If this reminded you of your own wholeness, give it a thumbs up or leave a comment and let me know. If it brings to mind a person who could use this message, then share it with them. And if you want some more reminders like this, subscribe and come back next week for another Wellness Wednesday. Remember that any healing you do leads to a more healed world. Until next time, I trust you, humanity.